Welcome, everybody, to Beyond I Do. Thank you for joining us. We got Adam and Ashley in the house today talking with you. No guests.
No guests.
Yeah, no guests right now. It's just me and you. Past couple episodes have been, I think it was me and you.
Past
couple episodes. Yeah. So we thought we have a TikTok
People
sent
keep
to
watching,
us,
so
a video sent to us, about the concept of what is more important in choosing a partner. And maybe you're already married and you see some things in this, but it seems like in this video it was pretty disagreeable idea. What I could tell from the comments of it that was sent to us is this idea that this woman is basing this argument to say it's far more important to pick someone you could build a life with than to love that person or be in love with that person. So we're going to watch the video to hear her concept and talk about this idea of maybe being provided for or seeing some value in someone over this idea of truly loving them, having this love for them. It's like, secondary in
love
the relationship.
Secondary.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So let's go ahead, Andy. Let's listen to this.
There's a difference between the person you can fall in love with and the person you can build a life with. And sometimes you can be madly in love with somebody who just isn't going to be a life partner. You're just not going to build a life together. And there's other people that you can definitely build a life together, but you might not have that chemistry and connection. I do think that there needs to be a difference between who you fall in love with and who you can build a life with. And you need to bear in mind who you love might not be who you can build a life with. And you do need to be certain that you can build a life with each other, because that's more indicative of whether you're going to last. The love itself is a really essential but insignificant trait in marriages. What's actually more important, what they find is bigger in keeping a marriage together rather than love, is friendship. They find if you have a friendship with your partner and with friendships, what ends up happening is you can still enjoy each other, even if you're not madly in love, and you still respect each other. Because with your friends, you don't abuse them, you don't throw things at them, you don't call them out, you don't call them names. You still are amicable. Whereas people who are madly in love but have no friendship and they have no lifestyle, it's just based on passion and chemistry. And chemistry is not connection.
I mean, I don't know what kind of friends she has, but I yell at my friends. I may have thrown some things at my friends.
You be slapping your friends.
Around
their arms, slap their back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there's a bit, and maybe she was struggling making the point.
I think she was, because there was good points in there, and there was some not where I wouldn't, because the way that I look at it, like if I were to look at it a friendship standpoint, Nancy and I have a friendship, and I love Nancy, but I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be truthful, I could be hurtful. Mm-hmm. Nancy's my friend, and I see the desire of a friendship with her, so and I love her. Nancy and I have had our own little struggles, and then we've come back to where forgiveness and all of those things come into play. And yes, that is our friendship, but I think that also translates into a relationship and in a marriage as well, outside of what she was saying. So my friendship, but at the end of the day with Nancy as a friend, one thing that I don't think she said correctly though is like, Nancy and I, we were able to rebuild our relationship. But if there was no rebuilding in our relationship, I was still going to have love for Nancy, but the friendship wasn't going to be there.
Yeah.
Like, if I love you, if I love you, which I do, I love my husband, we are friends, but the things that I do for you and the things that I desire for you are out of love, not out of because you're my friend. Because if you were my friend, there are times where you get on my daggone nerves as a friend.
You get on mine a lot.
I know I do.
Every day.
And so through that, though, so that's why I'm like, I love you and I want to build the life together with you because I love you and I can see what you contribute to me and what I can contribute to you. So we're building this life, which I believe love is the foundation. Well, obviously our foundation is Christ, which Christ is love. Mm-hmm. So in order for me to build this now foundation, Christ is love. So I have to continually exhibit that in my relationship with you. The added is we're friends.
Yeah.
That's the bonus.
Yeah.
Is our friendship.
Yeah.
Because we can have fun together. We can go to the movies together. We can go bowling together. We can go miniature golfing together. There's a lot of people in marriage that are not friends, but they continue to love each other because they want to build this life together. I don't know if that's what she was trying to say or not say, or you could say I'm saying it wrong as well.
No,
I think that
I think what she's confusing love to be is lust. What we would say,
right,
in a Christian framework, we would say the way she's explaining passionate love is the way that in the Christian space we would call that lust.
Yeah. Right.
That's chasing a fun time,
right,
passionately giving yourself to your physical desires with that person, no strings attached,
right,
all that kind of stuff like that. Because when she talks about wholehearted love, and she says, but if you're friends, people tend to have a healthier marriage, which is true.
Right,
there's data
right,
behind that.
Helps.
Marriages that enjoy hobbies together and spend time together that you maybe call a friend would do, like that's going to be healthier. But like, I don't know anyone who their and their spouse are head over heels in love with each other that don't consider themselves like friends.
Right.
I don't know a single couple. I know couples that love each other,
right,
that don't consider each other friends. But this idea that she's expressing is this like infatuated love that like, I love to see you. I love to be around you. I love to like all that stuff. Those are really healthy couples because they are, especially if they're married, like if you and your spouse 8 years down the line, 15 down the line are wholeheartedly in love, I'll tell you what, more than likely you are friends.
Right.
And more than likely you guys can get on the same page to build a life to each other because you are wholeheartedly in love with each other. So this idea that she expressingly gives this nature of like being infatuated and in love with each other exhibits violence and arguing and like this negative passion stream. And like normally that we'd say in that space, like, oh, you're not in love, you're in lust.
Right.
Because, you love the idea of this person, so you're willing to put up with kind of the garbage that surrounds them. And you're right. Like if you're in lust and all your friends don't like your boyfriend and girlfriend, and you guys have nothing in common outside of being infatuated with each other and just holding hands and just making out, but it's like there's no submission with each other, there's no forgiveness with each other, there's no pouring into each other, then I mean, that's not love.
Right.
That there's no culture in this world defines love in the way that she defined love.
Right.
On the back end, when she talks about like friendship and sacrifice and building something together, like most of the time we would start to say like that's a really good expression of love. And to add that, like you said, like friendship in there that goes, man, on top of loving each other and building something together, we really love to spend hobbies together, spend time together, and we tend to enjoy some things together. Then that is going to be a cherry on top.
Yeah,
that, like
absolutely.
The likelihood that you're gonna find a spouse that is equal to your best guy friend or girlfriend is going to be like pretty slim to none. So the idea that you're going to find a spouse that is going to supersede, like for me, like Heron being my best friend from college, it's like I could go to Heron and I could tell Heron anything as my boy, and like he's going to rock with me. Same thing. Phil just walked in, same thing. I could tell Phil anything, and like I don't have to qualify it, I don't have to fluff it, I don't think like that. I would say you are my best friend, and you are one of my best friends. But when I come to talk to you, I am very aware of the words that I have to choose. You're not like one of my boys.
No,
in the sense of
I don't
like
wanna be.
I could go to my wife and I can tell you anything, but I have to say it a certain way to be able to tell you anything.
Right.
With my boys, I don't have to be like, okay, Phil, hear me out. You're my boy. I'm with you. Just know it before I talk to you. Like, I'm your ride or die, dog.
Yeah.
You call me for anything, but I just want to let you know what you said yesterday was whack. But now I can walk to Phil and be like, yo, bro, what you said yesterday was whack. With you, I gotta go, hey babe, you know, man, I love you.
Right.
You're my girl. I'm rocking with you. But the way you talked yesterday, it's like I gotta but the way you talked, so like you are my friend, but like to lead someone on to think this natural relationship you have with your best guy friend or your best girlfriend, and you're gonna find a partner that is gonna stand out above. Like if you have that, that's very precious and that's very great, but it's gonna be pretty rare,
Right.
and for you to say like, yeah, they're my best friend, I'm just not physically attracted to them as my spouse, like that would be. And it's like, and therefore I'm going to marry him, because I think at the end of the day, us enjoying going to the carnival together is more important than our intimacy in bed. Like,
Right.
like you're gonna struggle.
Absolutely.
Either like going to an older episode, but from a recent one, like either your eyes are gonna wander, or either you're gonna be inappropriate towards the
lust.
you know,
You're
other
gonna be
people,
lusting for
or
other
you're gonna find
things.
something to lust. You know, like so love in chemistry, love in friendship, all those things, like to me, those all equally equal a very healthy relationship that any marriage should strive for.
Right.
But to be with a girl or a guy and be like, you know, I'm not really attracted and we don't have any passion for each other, but he's got a good career. Maybe
Seems like he could be a nice guy.
I don't think I need to be passionate about like that, my friend, would be called a gold digger. You know,
Well,
like
right.
in popular culture, we would call you a gold digger. If you found a guy that you could build a life with that you're not attracted to or in love with, but you say, oh, but my kids will go to private school and I'll build a life together. We'll have a great house with it. And like, that is what you call a gold digger.
Right.
You know, that for, you know, so guys don't tend to have the opposite cliche in that way. Guys tend to have to be attracted to the person they're with. So she's very talking from a very female centric
It
lens.
has to be. Well, because at the end of the day, too, we even as women, we come in it as that that you call it the peanut butter method. You come in with something sweet and soft, come in with something direct that may have hurt your feelings, then you come with something sweet and soft. And I think that you do that in a marriage with me, but
the leadership sandwich.
Yeah,
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah,
The sandwich.
Yeah, the sandwich.
Yeah.
And
you have
go ahead.
No, you have you say something nice about the person, criticize, say something nice about the person.
Yeah.
Sandwich. Yeah.
So when she's coming in at that viewpoint of like a woman's perspective, I don't even think she was believing what she was saying, because in reality, unless something may have in her past had happened or what she had been a viewpoint of building a life together, I want to build a life with someone that I love. I don't want to just build a life with a friend, because at the end of the day, if you're just doing, then what's the point of marriage? I could build a life with Nancy, and her and I could both be single.
Yeah.
Right. You could have built a life with Phil, and you guys would both be single. You're building a life. We got homeboys. We ride
Harleys.
Yeah, exactly.
Go to Long Beach.
Eat pizza. Yeah, the
pizza.
whole. But that's what I'm saying. I'm like,
Man, what you doing later, Phil? That sounds kind of fun. You want to go drive some Harleys?
what you do with your friend.
Yeah.
What you would do with your friend. And so I think that from her, I don't know her perspective on life or her past relationships, but from the standpoint of it, it sounds like she's probably been burned one too many times by falling in love in this fairy tale love that you're going to have this
and crashing and burning and getting hurt.
And not giving love a chance to grow within a relationship with a true person that wants to love you back. What was that saying I said to you? It was something that was true and not true, but I asked you if it was true. I think I asked you and Pastor Heron, and I think I said, is it true that a man will stay in love with his wife if he is madly in love with her madly in love with her during the dating stage, like infatuated with, loves her. She's an amazing woman, not like over the top goo goo, but like you loved me and I knew you loved me. and then I loved you, and I knew I loved you. But there's sometimes too where women may put love on the back burner, like you said, because we as women can naturally love, because that's just an instinction in us, or that's just a natural trait within us, that women are just naturally trained to love. So that over time we love. So that's the same thing as when I had my boys. When I had talked to my mom, I said, because you hear these stories when you have a child, when your child is born, you are just smitten and you are overly in love with your child. And when I had Matthias, I loved Matthias, but I had to get to know Matthias. I had to go spend time with Matthias, changing him, having the night feedings, having the skin to skin, and the natural feeling to where then the love just grew. And Adam had to do that just as much. Naturally, as a woman, it's going to come quicker. The man, it comes in time, obviously, to love their kids. But when you loved me, like, before we got married, I knew you were in love with me. I knew that this was the ride or die type of love that I felt. Would you say that is true, that a man maybe or may not love their spouse and will continue love them if they're madly in love with them, and like a woman, which she may be coming from a standpoint like, oh, I'll love you and I'll still do this because I'm building a life, because I just genuinely can just either turn it on, or I can gradually come to love you. Am I making sense? Is that question making sense?
I kind of. The problem is kind of you and her are defining the conversation in the spectrum of what it is to be female. And so the way that you're,
that's what I'm saying. That's the way she's thinking.
But that's also the way but you framed the question the same way. So like, let's talk about your example, like talking about Matthias. Your expectation of a father to love a child was in the same nature of kind of what you're talking about, which is like the spending time and the nurturing with breastfeeding and all these things like that, which is what God created you guys to build love.
Right.
Where for men, love is going to be defined very differently, which is the moment my sons were born, there was an instinctive nature from me to protect and provide for them, which is an exorbitant amount of love.
Right.
Because there are men who get children and they decide not to instinctively provide. They deuces. They go to say, I'm going to go get milk, and then they don't come back. And so that they don't love. They're not loving. And so both need to learn this idea of love, and men do need to be more expressive on an empathetic nature of love. But that's why many men get frustrated with women, because they're saying like, you don't love me. And he's going, I just like, because just here's what I would say. Judge your husband's work ethic when you met him to where it is now, being married and having children. My work ethic immensely grew being married and having children, because I bear that responsibility. And I bear that responsibility to give my family the best and give us every opportunity we can to succeed, to give our family time to go on vacation and give our kids experiences and all that kind of stuff like that. And you help with that. You work too. But as the man and the predominant breadwinner in our family, I really feel the weight of that, and I drive towards that. And so if Matthias went to me and was like, Dad, Mom loves me more because she's here every day when I come home from school, and she's able to sit on the couch with me while I'm on my iPad and hold me. Where are you? I'm like, buddy boy, I love you just the amount. I'm giving you the opportunity that your mom can pick you up from school, that your mom can be sitting on the couch with you, or whatever that may be. Yeah. And so for men, most of the time, the expressive nature of what his deep love could come from or want to be is this desire of like, I want to provide, I want to give her the best, I want to do the best, I want the best for my family, I want my kids to feel protected, I want them to feel like they are safe, and that may not come in a language that they can say. It's coming. It's same thing with a woman, that her expressive nature from a love comes from a hug to her children or a kiss to her children, and most women, unless you're a single mother and you have to play both roles, most women, if they have a man that's expressing love in the way of protection and provision, all these things like that, and we talked about it before in this podcast, she's able to turn that side of her brain off about unless she has a history of trauma, but worrying about the kid, the
Right,
bills,
right,
and
right.
worrying about, are we going to be able to pay the electricity? Worry about, are the bills going to be paid? Like, generally speaking, like the man bears that responsibility, which would be an expression of love. And so they both have very different natures. So for her, in this woman, like, she's getting the best of both worlds, because more than likely, if she's meeting a guy that she could build a life with, where he wants to build a life with her and he wants to give her everything that she desires, well, then he probably is madly in love with her.
Oh, 100%.
Because men don't choose women because a woman, for all intents and purposes, for a man, a woman doesn't necessarily offer a lot on paper. What she can offer is love, care, and she can make a house to a home. But like a guy, there's nothing she could do that on the front end to show that. He just has to basically decide that that's what he's going to do with her and hope that that's what she's going to do. But for a girl, she can actually on paper evaluate a guy pretty easily. Like, does he have a job? Does he have a career? Does he pay his bills? What does his finances look like? And if you're talking about a traditional home setting, which many Christian homes, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about secular. Many Christian homes bear a very traditional model of the household, right? So if we're looking at it that, like, I didn't decide to marry you based off of what you brought to the marriage.
Because I definitely wasn't bringing no cooking.
You weren't bringing cooking. You weren't bringing really any bills or money to it. You were in school doing your master's.
UPS was giving me the bare minimum.
You were working at UPS. So like, I wasn't like, man, could I build a life with this girl in a traditional way?
Yeah.
I could build a life on my own.
Right.
If you're looking at it in the sense of stability.
Right.
Having children and being married put a fire in me to do more. So you helped me be more aware of the passion and responsibility because I love you and because I love your boys. But like, you didn't like on the front end bring that value. What brought the value was who you were and the fact that I loved you and I wanted to provide the best.
Right.
Wanted you to have the best. So for her, like, she's getting the good deal into the deal, seeing that she gets a guy that is willing to give her this life to build, and she's using the word together, but who knows what that means.
And she's still lusting over somebody.
Yeah, apparently. And, like, what a sucky gig for a guy. Like being like about to marry her and then hear her on a podcast be like, yeah, there were so many other guys that I was so obsessed with, but I chose this doofus over here because he's got a good job, and he's it's
So
like,
I have a story
if
for
I
you
heard
guys
Ashley on a
that
podcast
kind
say that,
of,
I'd be like, oh dang.
yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome to our advertisement.
Yeah.
So you're watching our episode. We did a short break.
Yep.
What do we got a little break for, Ashley?
Oh, something really, really exciting that when you came home and told me about the news, I was overjoyed, and I hope you had 30 pieces, but you only had one, but it's okay.
Yeah,
we are going to be talking about our new partnership.
Yes.
With an amazing jeweler.
Yes. So we have big news. We've teamed up with the exceptional jeweler, Aaron Barnett, to bring you a unique jewelry experience from precious metals to custom creations. Aaron has it all, whether you're treating yourself or surprising a loved one. So it could be for you or someone you love, okay? Mother, grandmother, sibling, spouse, a loved one. His jewelry is a testament to cherished moments. As part of our community, you get special discounts and a chance to visit his private showroom in Los Angeles. So for anniversaries, birthdays, or just because, discover Aaron's jewelry in our show notes. Elevate your relationships with exquisite pieces from our partner, Aaron Barnett. It's a great relationship that we have because now we can offer great discounts to our Beyond I Do community to hook them up. And so you visit, like we said, visit the show notes and let's get back into the show. Oh, dang.
Yeah, would feel that. So as far as like building a life, I just heard a story about this girl who her desire is to one day be a stay-at-home mom because she wants to raise the children.
Okay.
And so she was getting to know this guy, and he was just like, you know what? I think after a year and a half or so, or whatnot, he was like, I just don't think I can give that to you. Like, I don't think I can make you a stay-at-home mom. But she was like, it's not that I want it right away. She was like, we can plan and we can, you know, try to figure this out together. And he was just like, no, we live in California. You need to work. Like, you need to get a job that has benefits. And he was just like, look at all these, was sending like just things like, hey, this is everything that it would cost. Like, do you think that stems from fear, or is that like more of a realistic thing where he's just like, for the guy? Yeah, because I hear you and I'm like, wow, yeah, that's what I would want, you know, a man to be like, no, we'll figure it out. You know, we'll make this work if that's your desire to be a stay-home mom, raise our children if that's possible. But it was just like right off the bat, I say right off the bat, but after some time it was just like, no, you want to be that? Go find a man who's going to like give that to you, because I don't want to.
Yeah, I think one of my questions I would have to the girl, or if I was in that situation with Ashley, is number one, if we could never attain that, would you be okay with it? Yeah. Because more than likely what that guy is fearing is, if we don't reach this, she's going to blame me for it, that I didn't work hard enough. I didn't dedicate myself enough. We've done counseling with people where the girl looked at the guy and said, you know, my money's my money, your money's our money. It's your job to give me the life that I want. It's my job to be pampered and a princess, you know? And you know, I'll be in that counseling meeting like, oh my God, you know, like, but to them it feels very logical, but it's now in theory, would I, as someone that loves my wife, love that to be the makeup for our marriage? Yeah, sure. You know, but is that the reality of the world we live in? No, it's not. So by that girl sharing that, immediately you could probably tell from that guy is either A, he could be a product of divorce, his parents divorced, could be aware of that, could have some type of trauma. Either he's working out of fear, or he's actually working out of a lot of maturity of experience to say, I don't want her to hold this over my head. Because if she goes, oh, we could do it together. Well, I say, what are you doing together to make you a stay-at-home mom and make me the provide? How are we doing that together? That's on me. You know, like I gotta figure that out. You know, you're not figuring it out because you're stay-at-home mom. Like, what do you have to do with that? I have everything to do with that. So she just put the ball 100%. Oh, we could do it in time, but just know it's all on you. You know, like now, if that is that true or not, I don't know. But to the guy, that's what he's hearing, and to the guy, he's saying, number one, either A, I don't want that pressure. I don't want you to get 5 years down the line, 6 years, like, hey, what the heck, man? I told you this was my heart, and I told you I'd be patient, but how long our kids are getting older. They're already in the 3rd grade. What's going on? You know, like, and then he's going like, I told you this was going to happen. I told you we were in California. I told you we were, you know, like, and so, and he also has the right to have a view for their life to say, you know, the way he sees it right now is they couldn't be comfortable without a dual income in the home. So he may say, man, the likelihood in our house in our life in California, if I want to have a house or want to do this, like, yeah, sure, maybe we could have an apartment and you be a stay-at-home mom, but maybe that's not the life I want. And so I want us to be able to have a house. And the way I only see it is we got to have 2 incomes, you know, to be able to do that. Unless for some reason a miracle would happen where if it did and I got a great income, great job, then I'd be happy to do it. So I think there's perspective on it. Obviously, they both had the right to walk away from it, which if they did,
they did.
That's great. You know, like, because either of them could have not, he could have, if he did it and he could have blamed her for the amount of stress he would have had to take to make her a stay-at-home mom, or B, she could have become impatient in wanting to be a stay-at-home mom, but not becoming that, and then eventually blaming him for it.
Right.
So I think it's very mature that they both walked. I think more people should do that.
Have those honest, open conversations ahead of time.
Yeah, because I was like,
wait,
because I was trying to think through it. Oh, okay. I was like, wait, you guys are already talking about this, but that is a huge thing because you're talking about your finances and how you want essentially your marriage set up. So
well, yeah, and I think when people talk about these things and desires, like one of the things Adam and I talked about early on is we were set on not having kids for the first 2 years. We made sure that we did not have kids for the first 2 years. And that was strictly because we wanted to have that time spent together, traveling, being able to just have the two of us, have that intimacy of time together. So these are conversations I think a lot of people need to start having, because a lot of people now are like, oh, we got married, let's have a kid. And you're like, have you experienced each other yet? Because you got the dating stage, we had the engaged.
Right.
So Adam and I dated, and there's restrictions when you're dating in a Christian way. There's restrictions when you're engaged in a dating in the engagement phase. Now you're married, you're like, let's do this thing. You throw in kids, you throw in bills, you throw in ups and downs within a job. There's a ton of things that you two have to still learn about each other that if you did it the Christian way, you weren't able to learn when you were dating or engaged because those weren't real life circumstances. So I even think that those are healthy conversations to be had, because Adam and I had even had a conversation about me being a stay-at-home mom. And then I came to the realization and said, I like to travel. And so if I like to travel, all this money that my husband's bringing home can't just come to the house. I have to do something to where I have to be confident enough to say that my kids are going to go, and they're going to go to an amazing Christian daycare, which they have, which I've had the very much blessing that they've been able to do that. And I know a lot of moms may feel guilty. I don't want someone else raising my kid. But at the end of the day, we have the 18 years to raise our kid. I have the rest of my life with this man. So I'm going to implement the things that I need to do with my kids that I feel right for me, and that may be different for someone else. But those were conversations that we had. We were like, yeah, Ashley, sure, be a stay-at-home mom, but that house better be clean. I can't complain because I made this choice to be a stay-at-home mom. Mm-hmm. I can't complain when he has late hours because he's probably feeling more pressure to bring more provision to the home. Mm-hmm. And then let's just say we may want to try to do a vacation here and there. Knowing that it may be limited to the scale of where we are going. Only because these are conversations that we're having naturally, which I think a lot of relationships should have on the front end of not only these desires, but tell me what your heart desires as you're building this life. Yeah. Tell me what you want in life. And I want my kids to experience the world. I want my kids to have a great relationship, not only with me, but their dad. I want them to see what work ethic is on both sides of things. So that's why I do work, because one, I do like to, I would say, I always tell you this, he spoils me, but then I can add a little bit of more spoil when I do get, and I'm working. So I think that he did make a right decision to stay, because it is a lot of pressure. There was a point in time where I stayed at home right when I had both the boys, and I was like, this life ain't for me. Yeah. Let me get back to work.
Well, we had a conversation where you were dating. You were getting, we'd just gotten pretty much engaged, but to me, engagement doesn't solidify the wedding. So right. Anyone can still walk away in the engagement. So even during that time, I was still deciding whether we were going to say I do. And so in one of the conversations we had, you were getting your master's in coaching and leadership. Yeah. And you were like, I love coaching. I want to be a university soccer coach, because you were a professional soccer player. I said, what does that look like? You said, well, I forgot what you said. You're like, maybe somewhere like a CBU, but anything like, I mean, Florida, if I went back to like coached where I was at, and I started looking at you, I'm like, how do I fit in this story? And then you were like, well, if I found something locally, and I just started like asking you like, what does a season look like? And you're like, every weekend we're, from these months to every weekend we're out of college. You're like, so at first you're like, okay, Florida's not good. Maybe somewhere like a big D1 university, maybe UCLA or this, or if anything, a CBU or something like that. And what does a soccer season look like? Oh, you're gone every weekend for 4 months. And then the weekdays you're blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking at you and I'm like, I'm a pastor. My game days are Sundays, right? Like you're not going to be at church with me? Oh, it would just be for seasons. And then if we have kids, how much do you need me to hold down with kids if you were in that role? Oh, probably this. And I looked at you, I said, I just want to tell you right now, I'm not doing that. So if that's the future you want, it's been great knowing you. I love you a lot, but because we were doing this in a Christian way, which is, I think I somewhat agree with her. She's probably not a Christian, but the lens of like not going into a relationship with infatuation. Right. She's calling it wholeheartedly love. We call it lust. Like if you and I were like sleeping with each other every day and spending time with each other a day, calling that shot would have been really difficult. But because you and I didn't embrace those things, because we were trying to walk out our faith in a very God-honoring way, and because we did limit the amount that we hung out together alone and stuff like that, meant that as I decided I loved you, I was also clear thinking enough to say, oh, you want to go do that university coaching thing? Hey, you could take my ring as a parting gift. God bless you, because this isn't happening. And you were like, oh, really? I was like, yes. Yeah. I did not sign up for that kind of marriage. If I did, then great. It would, as long people always say, like, what's the right way to do marriage? The right way is the way that you both can agree. Right. So that's the right way. There's no right way. So you may be in a marriage that it's like, well, my wife does travel for work and we make it work. Well, that's because you're willing to do the sacrifices to make it work. I wasn't willing to make that type of sacrifice. Right. I was a pastor's son. I know the sacrifice of ministry. If I wasn't a pastor's son, I maybe would have been naive enough to say, let's do it. Let's both pursue that. I think we could. But no, I grew up as a pastor's son. So I know the level of sacrifice. I know how much my wife is important, whether you ended up in full-time ministry or not. Yeah. I still needed you on Sundays. Right. I still, people needed to see the example of a godly marriage. Right. So for my wife to be gone 5 months out of the year on Sundays, I knew that wouldn't have rocked. And at that time, I was only a youth pastor, and I knew that was important. So for me, it was just like this couple was talking. I told you, if that's what you want to do, it's been great. Right. It's been good. Yeah. Like, I got, so that idea to her, what she's saying, building a life in love, that, they should coincide, but you loved me enough that you were like, okay, I could put that to side. Yeah. I'll you literally, it was like one conversation and you were like, okay, I'll continue this master's and I'm sure God will lead me to a reason why I need a coach. And then you've preached many messages over the years that said, God turned your soccer field into a field in the church that he just told you your field change, but in the moment you didn't have that answer. It took you years to get that answer of getting your master's in coaching. But
in that time, there was never any resentment.
Yeah.
There was never any, I should be doing this. I could be on a soccer field right now or watching college games being like, that should be me. That was never something that was that you took from me that I thought like, oh, this is something that he needs to pay for, and let me make his life miserable and let me make him sacrifice more because I sacrificed my career for him. That was never a thought. It was more of a piece to say, you know what? I do desire to be there with you. There's nothing I love more than this house and this church. And there's nothing that I love more than God. And I felt like in that moment, God was also expressing like this man is a man of convictions, and he's not saying it in a place of jealousy or in a place of selfishness, but in a place of where God has called him and he knew what his calling was and his career was, to where he could express that to me to say, if this is the next steps that we are taking, which I want to do with you, this is why it won't work out. This is the struggles we'll have. This is the lack that we'll have in our relationship. So not only did you give me wisdom on the end of where we should be in alignment and unity, but there was also a leadership standpoint too to say, if it's not me, this is why. If it's not me, it's okay. But if it is me, this is why it wouldn't work out. Yeah. This is why it doesn't make sense. And I love you too much to put both of us through that to try and make it work because we're in love.
Yeah. And that's why in some ways there's elements of where that in that video she's speaking truth, where couples should talk more leading up to marriage and a very proper relationship, like what building a life with each other will look like. Right. And you shouldn't allow infatuation and love totally, because like what you could have said was like, oh, I love Adam. Like I want that, but I love Adam more. And I'm sure my love for Adam will always be there in the way that it is right now, which is a little bit more of infatuation when you first meet. And so you're a little blinded. And so then years down the line, when that level of love fails off, and now you have to rely on a deeper love, which is a historic love, like your romantic love has kind of ran off, but now you need to have a familial love, like that's a elevated love that not every relationship reaches. And so if you didn't graduate from that and you stayed in romance love, then you would have blamed me but it was the fact that you were also approaching it in a very sober-mindedness of like, well, what life do I want? Right. What life do I want to build with Adam? I love him, but I'm not going to be foolish to say that I love him so much that my passion is to coach. And if I think that because I'm more infatuated with him right now than I am to coach, that infatuation does tend to teeter off. And so if you said, yeah, I'll do it for him, and then 3 years down the line, it's not, and then you're like, that wears off, and you're like, I can't believe I gave up coaching for this guy, you know? And it's like, I'm just like a bump on the log now, and I don't care about anything you're passionate about. Then, so then that's when I felt the responsibility of like, there was a season where I was like going to build you a gym to open up your own gym and coach people. And because I really felt responsible, like if she's going to sacrifice her dream career at the time for me, then I want to at least do everything I can to help her, you know, discover what that purpose is in reason that works for the life we're building. And so I was, you know, about to sign a lease on a gym to make for you. And I had investors, and you were going to run it. I was going to run the business ops and all that. And then, you know, you were assisting me in ministry as an hourly assistant. And then, you know, about 5 months into it, you were like, I really like this. I think I want to take more responsibility. And I'm like, you don't want to open the gym? And you were like, no, I don't think I do. I think I'm meeting with teenagers and young adults, and I feel like I'm coaching and using those principles for their lives. And you were like, I'm good. And like, okay, I think that's where sacrifice and love and all that stuff comes from, where you should speak your heart. You should never say false statements in your marriage that you're going to make your partner pay for in the long run. You should always be honest, but you should also if your spouse is sacrificing in an area, make sure that you're trying to do everything you can to help fulfill their dreams with that, you know? So like if we were at a place you were like, hey, I want to be a stay-at-home mom, I'd be like, hey, before we take that leap, let's maybe look at a place where you could move to part-time. And maybe we can, you know, maybe you work 20 hours somewhere. And, you know, like let's test that water before we really explore the type of sacrifice we're going to have to make to make it where you're a stay-at-home mom. Like, so I think there's steps and open conversation that can happen to make those things a reality.
And that's in marriage. So what about in dating? Like if a guy completely is like, no, I don't think I could ever do that. Not
Deuces.
even being reasonable with you.
Deuces.
No.
Okay,
See ya.
Then.
I guess
if it's not for me.
There's what is there, 9 billion people on the planet? So there's about 4.5
4.5
billion other guys
said.
that.
I was like, there's so many men out there. And she was like, where? And I was like, they're there. It's just not the one that you were talking about.
Yeah, because that's the last thing she wants to get into is resentment. You don't ever want to be in a relationship where you're resentful towards that person because they're not allowing you to do what you want to do. You have the freedom to do what you want to do right now. Like, yes, a lot of women do desire to be able to stay at home and to be doted on and be the passenger princess at all times. Yeah, that sounds great. That does sound great. But truly find out, like I said, like let Christ be your foundation. And I believe that he will start adding the puzzle pieces into your life of what the desire is. And eventually maybe that day could come. But to put somebody into that pressure position to be like, this is what I want, take it or leave it, that's hard. That's hard. Like Adam said, like let's work. What about part-time?
Right, and that's what she was saying. She was like, I'm willing to work. It's not that I don't want to work. Like, I'm willing to work. I think just when I have the child, if I'm willing to work all I need to do, overtime, whatever, leading up to it so we can save to have that life for when I do have the kid, then it's not required of me to.
How old was she?
In her 30s.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so a little older. Yeah.
So she's like, you know, she wants to be a mom and... but yeah, so and they had a great, you know, friendship and all. So I think that's just what.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's hard because the like you said, she's older in her age, but then at that point, that's where I tell a lot of people right now. Like I tell a couple of my girlfriends, like, hey, if you are single now, save now. Save now and have that desire to where, like, when the man does come in, if he does have a stable job, say, like how Adam said, like, I ain't got much to offer. I worked my butt off for my paychecks, and when I made my paychecks, it was paying for my car note. I was working at UPS. I was working up the hill with special needs. I was coaching and recruiting on the weekends. Like, I was working. And when I worked, it wasn't to say that I wasn't bringing in a ton of money. I was bringing in barely minimum wage.
Yeah.
And then I liked my shopping.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it's more realistic to be in your 30s to hope to be a stay-at-home mom than it is to be in your 20s.
Right.
Because with her in her 30s, the likelihood that she's going to meet a guy who has an established career, who maybe has grown in an income, he may be able to, in the dating process, tell you, I think that's possible. Because here's what as they get serious, here's what I make right now, and I think we could do that together. Because more likely, if you meet a guy in his 30s, maybe have one roommate, or by then he's rocking on his own. So it's realistic that he might be able to do that. That's why knowing her age was important, because if she was 21, 22, 23, I'd say you're probably a little blinded to think that you're going to meet a guy at 22 or 24 and you be able to be a stay-at-home mom.
Right,
I mean, it's so hard. He just finished college, or he just is moving up in his company. You're going to make a lot of sacrifices he may not want to do, because it's all on him. Burden's all on him if you say that.
Right.
So if you're in your 20s and you say that's your heart, that's where I would say just be open that might not be the case.
Right.
But if you're now single in your 30s and 40s, I think options open up that you can make that a little bit more higher tier on what you want out of the relationship, because you might be able to meet a guy who can actually do that right away, right? I cancel couples all the time who are like either in their second marriage or they're in their first marriage, but they didn't get married to their late 30s. And almost always the mom's a stay-at-home mom, because he's worked long enough that they had their first kid either in their second marriage, or they had a first kid finally because she was single till 35 or 36, and they want to pump him out because she's getting a little older. That a lot of times she can be, because by 35, not always, but many times you've been in a job for 10 years, and you got enough that you could say, okay, we got a little house and I can handle the bills on my own because I did it before. And so you can kind of, I'd say, talking to someone in their 30s, 40s, like to a girl, like if that's important to you, then, hold on for it, and you might be able to find a guy like that. But you're in your 20s, I'd be like, you better have that like list 9, 10, because it's going to be so hard to find a guy like that. And to me, that would be way too much pressure for in today's age. And here's the last thing I'll say, and we'll close with this, is never expect to build a family that you had growing up. Stop trying to recreate your childhood. Okay? That's very dangerous. And so economy's different, life's different, America's different, challenges are different, especially if you're in somewhere like California or New York or whatever like that. Like because we've done counseling with people and they're like, well, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she was a stay-at-home mom in 85, in 92. Like it is completely different today than it was then. And so if you really want that and hold out for it, just also don't complain then that you're not finding anyone if you really want that. But for the most part, the likelihood, and a lot of people, unfortunately, are recreating their childhood in a negative sense. Trauma or whatever that is. So
living in fear.
Yeah. So as a whole, just, my parents were divorced. That's why I find it hard to give as a whole, your childhood is your childhood because of your parents and your childhood, for the good or the bad. And so find a way to have freedom from that, release that. If it was a bad environment, you're not going to recreate it if you choose not to. Especially for us at Christian Space, if you rely on God to heal you of those things, rely on God to release you of those things, to deliver you from those things, He can and He will. But also, if you have a dream of your childhood was a sin way, like trust in the Lord and like the Bible says, if you pray according to His will, and He will answer it. So as it is, if it's in the will of God and your work ethic matches that, and your spouse's work ethic, you may be able to achieve that. We're not doing that, but I people that have it, it's like, man, it's great.
But you're content and you're happy with what setup you have.
Absolutely.
So it just works different with everybody.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, great conversation. Thanks for joining us on Beyond I Do. Always love you guys tuning in with us. Appreciate you always sharing clips, what you love about certain episodes, and don't forget to give us that review and comment on Apple and Spotify and all that stuff like that. And YouTubes.
YouTubes.
Yeah. All right,
All right.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.